Soon, some of the state's strict coronavirus guidelines will be eased, though the state remains under a stay-at-home order. Starting at 7 this morning, golf courses, state parks, and beaches are reopening. These changes come as key numbers, including hospitalizations and ICU patients, remain stable, but this crisis is far from over. Let's bring in Amy Kawada now. She has the very latest from state leaders. Amy.
Yeah, good morning, Max. Well, starting today, like you just mentioned, state parks will be one of those outdoor activities that will be able to welcome visitors again. But if you are one of those who would like to head out to enjoy one of these outdoor low-risk activities, you need to remember you still have to practice social distancing. Meanwhile, when we're talking about schools and students, Maryland schools will remain closed for the rest of the academic year.
Governor Larry Hopkins says he'll make a decision to start reopening Maryland next week, but nothing is guaranteed.
I'm not committing to it because the numbers could spike back up and we say, sorry, we're not moving forward.
And Governor Hogan relaxed some of the state's strict guidelines. Starting this morning, you will be able to boat and fish, play tennis, and go to the golf course while following social distancing. And state beaches are reopening. Also, elective surgeries can resume with prior screening and social distancing.
I want to emphasize there's no reason to delay time-sensitive care, particularly for conditions that you're concerned about having an emergency.
The state will also begin more tracing of contacts for those diagnosed with COVID-19, hoping to trace up to 1,000 new cases each day and hiring hundreds of people to do so.
These are only small steps, and that they may be of little comfort to those who are out of work and who are struggling financially.
We're safer from death if we're not born, right?
At a coronavirus hearing in the U.S. House, Eastern Shore Congressman Andy Harris questioned the effectiveness of stay-at-home orders.
We don't really have scientific data on that for coronavirus, do we?
There are major outbreaks among poultry workers in his district, and the governor announced universal testing of those workers shift by shift.
And the governor also announced that a surge tent has been set up at Easton Memorial Hospital and says there's expanded testing for first responders and correctional officers. Reporting live this morning, I'm Amy Kawada for WJZ.
As Amy mentioned, Maryland public schools will be closed for the rest of the year, but online and distance learning will continue. Let's bring in Mike Shue now. He breaks down what parents and students now have to know. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Max. By and large, parents and students understand why that this is happening, but they are still disappointed, particularly those seniors who would have graduated in the class of 2020.
I wouldn't want to send my kids back to school.
Hey, yeah, I say it's a good idea.
The news broke Wednesday that students and teachers won't be returning to school this year. The state superintendent says Maryland is now working on a long-term recovery plan to make up for lost instruction time. The superintendent says that when schools finally open, it will most likely be slowly and in stages. For example, schools could start by bringing students back in small groups with social distancing, or students could return on an alternating A and B day schedule. Another option would be to alternate weeks of in-person learning and at-home distance learning. Schools might also bring back those students with disabilities or those needing English language instruction.
I thought it was like a great surprise, like that everybody now is going to be homeschooling.
Brittany Rawls has been homeschooling her kids for the past 2 years, so the online and e-learning, which will continue through the end of the academic year, came easily.
Because a lot of my friends, they would ask me, like, how do you do it?
So it is up to the the superintendents in each discipline, or let's call that district now, to decide exactly how the graduation ceremonies are going to be. Here in Baltimore County, they are going to have some virtual online ceremonies. Those will be pre-recorded. I'm Mike Shue reporting live from Rogers Forge for WJZ.
Mike, thank you. The number of coronavirus cases in the U.S. rises about 1.2 million, while more than 73,000 are dead. Now, across the country, infections in more than half the states are rising. Most of the country is loosening stay-at-home restrictions. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo addressed a surprising pattern in some of the state's newest cases. The majority of people hospitalized over the last few days say they followed shelter-in-place guidelines.
We thought maybe they were taking public transportation, and we've taken special precautions on public transportation, but actually no, because these people were literally at home.
While he says New York's overall hospitalization rate continues to go down, at least 28 states saw new cases rise over a three-day average last week. Former CDC Chief Tom Frieden says by the end of May, the number of coronavirus deaths in the U.S. will pass the 100,000 mark. Baltimore City Public Schools is reopening their emergency meal site at Sandtown Winchester Achievement Academy. It was closed Monday after an employee tested positive for coronavirus. The school disinfected the building and staff changes have been made. Still, officials want anyone who may have been around the staff to check themselves for symptoms. We have a full list of meal sites at WJZ.com. Baltimore County is taking steps to make sure no senior goes hungry. Starting next week, residents over 60 can get free boxes of food from 3 new locations: Randallstown, Parkville, and Dundalk. Each box of food will have 6 days worth of meals and snacks. This was made possible thanks to nearly $600,000 in federal aid. You still need to make an appointment before picking up your box. To find out how, just head to WJZ.com. We've been talking a lot about the coronavirus patients in our state, and how many people it's killed. But thousands have also recovered after a long-fought battle. Avajoy Burnett was at Johns Hopkins for an emotional reunion.
COVID-19 puts thousands of people in the hospital, but some never make it to this moment. It took 46 days to get here.
It's been a long time coming.
Weeks on a ventilator.
It was tough. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't move.
And a wife who stuck to her faith.
It's by God's grace that we made it today.
When the Johns Hopkins medical team bid farewell, that's when the tears started to flow.
When I came off the ventilator, I thought something, because I didn't know what was going on. So my instinct is just to get up, and I couldn't move. So it scared me.
When he was on the ventilator and he was unconscious, they would let us call in and just talk to him through the phone.
It devastates your body.
Tears of joy and a celebration for a family who knows this could have been much different.
It's a homecoming, but it could have been a homegoing, and so that's why we're extremely grateful.
And maybe a day late.
5 years married yesterday.
But this couple is now able to celebrate another year of marriage.
She wouldn't let me give up. So I wasn't giving up. I was determined.
And on this National Nurses Day, the family kept on praising the medical team at Johns Hopkins because visitors were not allowed. They said the medical team made every effort to allow them to video conference with their family member. Avajoy Burnett for WJZ.
You can now pick up your food from Sprouts Farmers Market. You can choose from more than 12,000 organic and natural products online for curbside pickup at locations in Bel Air or Pasadena. You can schedule your pickup for days in advance. Sprouts is also offering grocery delivery through Instacart to select zip codes. An AmeriCorps member is giving back to some of Baltimore's hardest hit communities by making face masks. Rashawn Jackson tried to get masks for her family when this all started, but couldn't find any. That's when she decided to make them herself instead. She asked her mom for a sewing machine and learned how to use it. But she also wanted to help out the students.
A lot of the families have lost their jobs since the pandemic happened and already live in a low-income community, so they don't have money to buy masks.
All right, so here's how it works. Students at schools in Upton and Druid Heights get a call asking if they need a mask. They can place an order for them and their families. Fellow AmeriCorps members are now sewing too, and hundreds of masks have been delivered. Of course, WJZ has your back with everything for these tough times. Just go to WJZ.com and look under top stories for a list of resources. The most important links and numbers are under quick links.